Universal design is the design of products and environments that are aesthetically pleasing and usable by all people, regardless of age, size, or ability.
Universal design is sort of one size fits all. It's sort of a floodlight, so to speak, as opposed to a laser light. It tries to create a home space that can work for as many people as possible.
In fact, it does not distinguish between those with a disability and those without a disability. Universal design appeals to people of all generations.
15 years ago, 20 years ago, when an older person lived in a house and maybe had it retrofitted for universal design, buyers didn't find it attractive. Now, there's a lot more thought going into universal design. It's looking pretty and attractive and you wouldn't know it. So you'll have features that people can grab onto, but it's not that hospital look with those big clunky grab bars.
I decided to embark on this creation there were four real motivating forces around this house. One being I wanted it green design, one I wanted it pet friendly, one I wanted it easy to clean, but the universal design was a big factor. I'm now 69 years old and I was about 66 when I started doing this, and I found that I wasn't getting younger. And I still am not getting younger, and I have osteoporosis, and so there are reasons to anticipate that someday I may break a hip, I may fall down the steps, something may happen to me and I'll need to have a walker or a wheelchair. There were things that I knew I wanted to have. One was a stairless entry to the house, the other was an elevator, and the third was lots and lots of grab bars for the bathtubs. I have friends with multiple sclerosis, I have friends with arthritis, I have more and more and more friends who are quite pleased that they can get in and out of my house and up and down.
I've talked to architects and builders who are thinking about things and putting it into the homes. There are some people who are putting elevators in and some other elements of universal design. But 20 years ago, the housing stock in Arlington was getting pretty old. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that you saw people knocking down the older houses, building newer houses. And sometimes the considerations, especially 10 years ago, was more focused on what's the biggest house I can build on this spot and not pay so much for it, and not really a thoughtful design about aging in place.
One solution to the problem is to modify existing homes to incorporate universal design features.
So walking down a road and looking at a house to determine, is it, if you think it's universal design, then you would look for a stepless entry. You look for a walkway that could be a ramp. Ideally, it's going to look like a nice walkway with a stepless entry into the house. The ramps, walkways coming into the home, okay, we push strollers down it, we roll luggage down it, and then there's the wheelchair. But that's like maybe 5 or 10% of the usage of that ramp is actually used for a wheelchair.
So what to look for, and I don't see it all that much, are like zero-grade entries into the showers, wider doors in case you have somebody who is in a wheelchair. What I do see more often are, instead of doorknobs, the handles, the lever handles. That's part of universal design.
I would be very happy to have something that had this kind of an arc. I could put my fingers right in it and could pull with no obstruction and no cramping of my fingers.
There are people who put in grab bars, but I think traditionally they were more utilitarian. They looked more hospital-like, which was not that attractive to a buyer. But I've seen some fabulous designs recently where you cannot tell. It looks just seamless, like it's part of the shower, and you wouldn't notice except when they're installed, they're reinforced because you know somebody's going to grab on it and put pressure and weight on it. Sometimes it's the placement of light switches a little bit lower. As time goes on, we're seeing more and more universal design that's attractive and that you wouldn't notice it as universal design. And I think also, if you're doing it at the building stage, it is not going to be that much more expensive.
So how people should think about the costs, because they're concerned it might be very expensive to do universal accessible design. I think the question would be to look at the alternative. How long do you plan on staying in the home? Do you want to, if there are, say, two people, two partners living in the home, do they want to live together? If one gets injured and can't access the home.
I'm seeing more and more architects think about it and builders think about it, and I think in 10 or 15 years it will be the norm.
Well, everyone benefits from universal design because it works for everyone, no matter what your ability, no matter what your age, no matter what your station in life. Everyone is comfortable living in a universal design home.